Imagine waking up every morning with a mind so sharp that it can see the future before the world even understands the present. Imagine developing habits so powerful that they quietly transform an ordinary young programmer into one of the most influential thinkers humanity has ever known. The truth is that greatness rarely arrives with fireworks. It grows silently in the small routines we repeat every single day. The world often sees the skyscraper, but rarely notices the foundation beneath it. The same is true when people look at the extraordinary journey of Bill Gates. They see the wealth, the global influence, the revolutionary companies, and the philanthropy that touches millions of lives. But they rarely look deeply at the simple daily disciplines that shape the mind behind it all. What if the difference between a curious mind and a world-changing one is not genius alone, but the quiet habits practiced when nobody is watching? What if the routines of learning, thinking, questioning, reflecting, and acting with purpose can gradually build a mind capable of reshaping industries and solving humanity's greatest challenges? Today, we are not simply talking about success. We are exploring the daily habits that forged one of the most powerful minds in the modern world. Habits so simple, yet so profound, that anyone willing to practice them with discipline can begin transforming their own future. Success does not start with ambition alone. It begins with curiosity so intense that it refuses to sleep. One of the most powerful forces behind the mind of Bill Gates was an almost unstoppable hunger for learning. From an early age, his mind treated knowledge not as information, but as fuel, something essential for growth and innovation. Many people read casually, but Gates approached reading as if every page could contain a new key to unlock the future. Books were not entertainment alone. They were tools that expanded his vision of what was possible. Day after day, he immersed himself in ideas about technology, business, science, and the complex systems that shape our world. This habit created a mental environment where creativity could thrive. Knowledge is like oxygen for the brain. The more you breathe it in, the more your mind begins to expand beyond ordinary thinking. When people ask how extraordinary innovation emerges, the answer often lies hidden inside ordinary routines repeated for years. Gates understood that ideas are like seeds scattered across the landscape of the mind. The more seeds you plant, the more likely something revolutionary will grow. That is why he cultivated the discipline of deep learning every day. Curiosity became his compass, guiding him toward questions that others ignored. He believed that the world belongs not just to those who work hard, but to those who continuously learn faster than the challenges they face. Imagine the impact of waking up every morning with the determination to learn something new that could reshape your understanding of the world. Imagine treating every book, article, and conversation as a doorway into deeper wisdom. This habit does more than increase knowledge. It sharpens perception. It trains the brain to recognize patterns, anticipate problems, and connect ideas that seem unrelated. Over time, this daily practice builds a powerful mental library that allows you to think more creatively and make better decisions. The most remarkable aspect of this habit is that it transforms learning from an occasional activity into a lifelong mission. The difference between ordinary thinkers and extraordinary ones is often the willingness to stay curious, even after achieving success. Gates never allowed his mind to become comfortable with what it already knew. Instead, he continued feeding it with new perspectives, new discoveries, and new questions. This relentless curiosity created a powerful intellectual momentum. When your mind constantly absorbs knowledge, it begins to see opportunities hidden within complexity. Problems that appear impossible to others start looking like puzzles waiting to be solved. That is the quiet magic of learning every day. It transforms your brain into a laboratory where ideas collide, evolve, and eventually produce innovation. Many people dream of achieving greatness, but they underestimate the role that learning plays in shaping powerful thinking. The truth is that knowledge compounds over time, just like investment. Each book you read, each idea you explore, and each question you ask becomes another layer of intellectual strength. Eventually, the accumulation becomes so powerful that your thinking begins to influence the world around you. This is not simply a habit of reading. It is a habit of expanding the boundaries of your mind every single day. While learning feeds the mind with knowledge, another habit transforms knowledge into wisdom. Bill Gates developed the extraordinary discipline of deep thinking, something increasingly rare in a world filled with constant distractions. Many people absorb information, but rarely give themselves the time to process it deeply. Gates understood that true breakthroughs occur not during moments of noise, but during moments of quiet reflection. This is why he regularly created time to step away from daily chaos and immerse himself in uninterrupted thinking. During these moments, he examined ideas, questioned assumptions, and explored possibilities that others might overlook. Thinking deeply is like diving beneath the surface of the ocean. On the surface, you see waves, but beneath it lies an entire world waiting to be discovered. When the mind is given the freedom to wander through ideas without interruption, it begins to uncover insights that cannot emerge in rushed environments. Gates treated thinking as a deliberate exercise. Instead of reacting quickly to every challenge, he asked deeper questions. Why does this problem exist? What systems created it? What solutions could transform the entire landscape rather than just fix the symptoms? This approach turned challenges into opportunities for innovation. Deep thinking also allowed him to see connections between technology, economics, and human behavior. When you train your brain to analyze complex systems, you develop the ability to predict how ideas might evolve in the future. That is why visionary leaders often spend large amounts of time thinking before acting. They understand that one powerful idea can be more valuable than hundreds of rushed decisions. Another remarkable aspect of this habit is its ability to strengthen clarity. When the mind slows down and reflects, confusion gradually disappears. Problems that once looked overwhelming become easier to break down into smaller pieces. This mental clarity allows leaders to make decisions with confidence, even in uncertain situations. Gates demonstrated this ability throughout his career. He consistently looked beyond immediate trends and focused on long-term impact. Deep thinking also cultivates humility. The more you explore ideas, the more you realize how much there is still to learn. This awareness keeps the mind open to new perspectives and prevents intellectual arrogance. In a rapidly changing world, the ability to think deeply may be one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. It allows you to see beyond surface-level information and understand the deeper forces shaping our future. When you combine relentless learning with deep reflection, your mind becomes a powerful engine for innovation. Knowledge provides the raw material, and thinking refines it into transformative ideas. Imagine building a daily routine where your mind is not constantly reacting to noise, but actively exploring possibilities. Imagine creating moments where you step away from the rush of life and allow your thoughts to stretch into new territories. This habit does not require extraordinary resources. It requires discipline and intention. Yet its impact can be extraordinary. Over time, deep thinking sharpens creativity, strengthens decision-making, and unlocks insights that can change entire industries. This is how powerful minds are built, not through chaos, but through deliberate reflection. Knowledge and thinking alone cannot transform the world unless they are paired with another powerful habit: purposeful action guided by long-term vision. One of the defining characteristics of Bill Gates was his ability to translate ideas into real impact. Many people dream of innovation, but Gates developed the daily discipline of turning imagination into tangible results. This habit began with a clear understanding of purpose. Instead of chasing temporary success, he focused on building solutions that could shape the future. Purpose acts like a compass for the mind. Without it, effort becomes scattered and progress slows. With it, every action gains direction and meaning. Gates believed that meaningful work requires consistent effort, patience, and the courage to pursue ambitious goals. Every day, he pushed forward with the belief that technology could empower individuals, transform businesses, and improve society. Purpose gave him the motivation to persist even when challenges appeared overwhelming. This is a powerful lesson for anyone seeking to achieve extraordinary results. When your daily actions align with the meaningful vision, motivation becomes sustainable. Work stops feeling like an obligation and begins feeling like a mission. Another element of this habit is strategic focus. Gates understood that success often comes from concentrating energy on a few important priorities rather than spreading effort across countless distractions. Each day he directed his attention toward projects capable of creating significant impact. This focus allowed him to build momentum and continuously improve the systems he was developing. Focus is like a magnifying glass for effort. It concentrates energy until it becomes powerful enough to ignite change. Combined with purpose, it transforms daily work into a powerful force for progress. The final dimension of this habit is reflection and improvement. Gates never assumed that success meant perfection. Instead, he treated every achievement as an opportunity to learn and evolve. After completing projects or making major decisions, he analyzed what worked, what failed, and what could be improved. This cycle of action and reflection created a continuous process of growth. Over time, it sharpened his ability to solve complex problems and adapt to new challenges. Imagine living each day with the determination to improve even the smallest aspects of your work and thinking. Imagine approaching life as a continuous experiment where every experience becomes a lesson for future success. This mindset transforms setbacks into stepping stones and challenges into opportunities for mastery. When learning, thinking, and purposeful action merge together, something remarkable happens. The mind begins to operate at a higher level of clarity and creativity. Ideas turn into innovations, and innovations turn into lasting impact. This is how powerful minds are built, not through sudden flashes of brilliance, but through consistent habits practiced every day. The story of Bill Gates reminds us that extraordinary influence often begins with ordinary routines performed with extraordinary dedication. Each day presents a new opportunity to cultivate curiosity, explore ideas deeply, and act with purpose. Over time, these habits reshape the way we see the world and the way the world responds to us. The most inspiring realization is that these habits are not reserved for billionaires or technological pioneers. They are available to anyone willing to practice them with discipline and passion. The journey toward a powerful mind begins not with a dramatic moment, but with a simple decision to think differently today than you did yesterday. When curiosity guides you, when reflection sharpens your ideas, and when purposeful action turns those ideas into reality, you begin walking the same path that transformed an inquisitive young programmer into one of the most influential thinkers of our time. And perhaps the most powerful message hidden within that journey is this: greatness is not a mystery reserved for a few extraordinary individuals. It is a process built from key habits we choose to practice every single day. Tonight, as I stand here speaking to you, I want you to forget for a moment the titles people attach to my name. Forget the words billionaire, entrepreneur, technologist. I want you to see me simply as someone who spent most of his life asking one question over and over again: how can we make things better? My name is Bill Gates, and if there is one habit that has shaped my thinking more than almost anything else, it is the habit of asking powerful questions and refusing to accept the world exactly as it is. I've always believed that progress begins the moment someone decides that the current version of reality is not the final one. When I was young, I didn't look at computers the way most people did. Back then, computers were massive machines locked inside universities and government labs. People believed they were tools only for scientists and large organizations. But every time I saw those machines, a question kept forming in my mind: why can't everyone have access to this power? That single question eventually grew into a vision that sounded crazy at the time: a computer on every desk and in every home. Most revolutions don't begin with money or power. They begin with curiosity. They begin with a mind that refuses to accept limitations without investigation. That's why I believe questions are among the most powerful tools a human being can possess. Questions challenge assumptions. Questions reveal hidden possibilities. And sometimes the right question can unlock a future that nobody else can yet see. When I started building what eventually became Microsoft, I didn't have all the answers. In fact, most of the time I had more questions than answers. But those questions forced me to think deeper. Instead of asking whether something was possible, I asked how it could become possible. Instead of asking why something was difficult, I asked what systems could be redesigned to make it easier. You see, powerful minds don't simply accept problems, they investigate them. Every problem is really a question waiting for a better answer. When we faced challenges while building software in the early days, we didn't just try to fix them quickly, we studied them. We asked why they happened in the first place. That process of questioning forced us to design smarter solutions. Over time, it became part of our culture. It became the way we approached innovation. And let me tell you something important. Curiosity is not just about technology or business. It is about understanding the world. The more questions you ask, the more you begin to see patterns in how systems work, whether those systems are computer networks, economic markets, or global health challenges. When you start seeing those patterns, your thinking changes. Suddenly, problems that once looked overwhelming start looking like puzzles, and puzzles can be solved. That mindset has guided me throughout my life. Even after stepping away from my day-to-day role at Microsoft, curiosity didn't disappear. It simply moved toward different challenges. Through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I began asking new questions. Why do millions of children still suffer from diseases that we already know how to prevent? Why do certain regions struggle with access to education and healthcare? What systems could be redesigned to improve millions of lives? Those questions led me into conversations with scientists, doctors, engineers, and researchers around the world. And the more I learned, the more I realized something fascinating. The world's biggest problems often persist not because solutions are impossible, but because the right questions haven't been asked yet. When you ask better questions, you begin uncovering better answers. That's why curiosity is not just an intellectual habit, it's a force for progress. It pushes humanity forward. Every major breakthrough in science, technology, and medicine began with someone who refused to stop asking questions. Now, here's the part I want you to really understand. You don't need to run a technology company to develop this habit. You don't need billions of dollars to start asking better questions about the world. All you need is the willingness to look at familiar things and wonder how they could be improved. When you walk through your daily life, observe the systems around you. Observe how businesses operate, how technology works, how people communicate. Instead of accepting those systems as permanent, ask how they could evolve. That simple shift in perspective transforms the way your mind operates. Instead of being a passive observer of the world, you become an active explorer of possibilities. I've spent decades surrounded by brilliant people, and I've noticed something interesting about them. The smartest individuals are not necessarily the ones who talk the most. They are the ones who ask the most thoughtful questions. They listen carefully, analyze deeply, and then they ask something that makes everyone in the room stop and think. That's the power of a great question. It can redirect an entire conversation. It can reveal flaws in an idea, and sometimes it can spark an innovation that changes everything. Another reason questioning is so powerful is that it keeps your mind humble. No matter how much you learn, there is always more to discover. When you approach life with curiosity, you remain open to new information. You remain willing to change your perspective when evidence points toward a better solution. That humility is essential in a world that evolves as rapidly as ours. Technology changes, industries transform, global challenge, engines grow more complex. If your thinking becomes rigid, you fall behind. But if your thinking remains curious, you keep adapting. Throughout my career, I've tried to maintain that curiosity. Whether I'm reading research about climate innovation, studying breakthroughs in medical science, or learning about education systems around the world, the process is always the same. I ask questions. I analyze the answers. And then I ask even better questions. That process creates momentum for learning. It keeps your mind engaged with the world instead of disconnected from it. I want you to imagine what could happen if millions of people adopted this habit. Imagine classrooms where students are encouraged not just to memorize information, but to challenge ideas. Imagine workplaces where employees are rewarded for questioning inefficient systems instead of simply following them. Imagine communities where curiosity drives innovation and collaboration. The impact would be enormous. Progress would accelerate in ways we can barely predict. So when you leave here tonight, I want you to remember something very simple but very powerful. The future is shaped by people who are curious enough to question the present. The next breakthrough in technology, medicine, energy, or education may begin with a single question that someone in this room decides to ask. And that question might lead to an answer that improves millions of lives. Throughout my life, I've learned that intelligence alone does not create impact. Curiosity creates impact. Curiosity leads you toward knowledge. Knowledge leads you toward understanding. And understanding gives you the ability to solve problems that once seemed impossible. So never stop asking questions. Never stop exploring ideas. Never assume that the way things are today is the way they must remain tomorrow. Because the moment you decide to question the limits of the present, you begin building the future. And the most exciting part is this: the next great idea that changes the world might begin with a question that you decide to ask today.